In the shadows of international diplomacy, beyond the loud speeches and televised summits, there is a quieter, more calculated confrontation unfolding. Some call it the silent war games of China. It's a mix of military posturing, economic maneuvering, and technological experimentation, geared towards one ultimate question. What will the future of Taiwan, the Pacific, and China's relationship with the West look like? The narrative is not one of immediate gunfire and open war. Instead, it is a chess game played with aircraft carriers, economic sanctions, artificial intelligence, cyber threats, and the silent hum of satellites orbiting above. This script unpacks how China projects its growing power and tests the resilience of Western alliances through naval and air drills, through talk of AI-powered warfare, and through the eternal tug-of-war between economic leverage and military threats. Taiwan is often described as the most dangerous place on Earth today. Why? Because it sits at the heart of China's long-term strategic vision and the West's defense commitments in Asia. China considers Taiwan a breakaway province that must eventually return to the mainland, by peace if possible, but by force if necessary. This is enshrined in the Chinese Communist Party's official position. Taiwan, however, operates as a de facto independent state, with its own government, military, and thriving economy. Most importantly, it sits at the center of global semiconductor production, chips that power everything from smartphones to advanced fighter jets. For Beijing, the stakes are existential. Reuniting Taiwan is a cornerstone of President Xi Jinping's promise of a national rejuvenation. For Washington and its allies, defending Taiwan is about preserving a rules-based international order, maintaining credibility, and securing a critical link in the global supply chain. If Taiwan were to fall, it would signal a seismic shift in the balance of power across the Pacific. This is where China's silent war games come in. Naval power has always been the purest projection of strength across oceans, and China has been building its navy at a pace that astonishes even seasoned observers. In 2000, the People's Liberation Army Navy, PLAN, was a coastal defense force. Today, it boasts more warships than even the U.S. Navy, though not yet of the same tonnage or technological sophistication. Its aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines, and amphibious assault ships routinely circle Taiwan in a show of force. Every time a U.S. or allied official visits Taipei, Beijing responds with massive naval and air drills, simulations of blockades, amphibious landings, and precision strikes. These drills serve two purposes. Signal to Taiwan. Any move toward formal independence will be met with overwhelming military power. Signal to the West, intervention will be costly, dangerous, and perhaps even futile. China's exercises are carefully choreographed. They are not random displays of power. They are rehearsals designed to iron out logistics, test coordination between air and naval forces, and intimidate adversaries without firing a shot. Western analysts often call these drills dress rehearsals for invasion, but Beijing frames them as routine exercises in national defense. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. They are practice sessions for contingencies, whether to blockade Taiwan, seize offshore islands, or confront U.S. naval groups. Alongside naval power, the People's Liberation Army Air Force, PLADAF, has been expanding at an unprecedented rate. Modern fighters like the J-20 stealth jet, long-range bombers, drones, and surveillance aircraft regularly breach Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, ADZ. These incursions are not accidents. They are calculated moves to wear down Taiwan's pilots, to study their responses, and to normalize Chinese presence in contested airspace. Each flight tests Taiwan's resolve and signals China's readiness. China's air drills also serve a psychological purpose. They send a message to the Taiwanese people: you are surrounded and we are always watching. At the same time, they challenge Western powers to consider whether they would risk direct confrontation by flying their own aircraft nearby. While Taiwan is the focal point, the silent war games extend far beyond. China's ambitions are regional, even global. Across the South China Sea, Beijing has transformed reefs and rocks into fortified islands, complete with runways, missile systems, and radar stations. These artificial outposts act as unsinkable aircraft carriers, extending China's reach deep into international waters. Beyond the South China Sea, Beijing is expanding influence in the Pacific Islands. Countries like the Solomon Islands and Kiribati have signed security and economic agreements with China. To Washington and Canberra, this feels like a new string of pearls strategy, building influence and potentially military access points across the Pacific. For the West, this creates a dilemma. Should they confront China directly in these far-flung regions or focus resources closer to Taiwan? For China, it is about stretching Western alliances thin, making them juggle crises across multiple fronts. One of the most intriguing aspects of China's silent war games is the growing focus on artificial intelligence, AI, in warfare. Chinese military journals frequently discuss the concept of intelligentized warfare. Unlike traditional mechanized or even information warfare, this new approach envisions battles dominated by autonomous drones, AI-driven surveillance, algorithmic decision-making, and cyber weapons capable of disabling entire networks. Consider a scenario where China launches a blockade of Taiwan. Instead of a traditional naval battle, fleets of AI-powered drones swarm enemy ships, autonomous submarines patrol the straits, and cyber attacks paralyze command centers. Human decision-makers would be overwhelmed by the sheer speed and complexity of AI-directed operations. The West is not standing idle. The US, NATO, and allied powers are investing heavily in AI warfare too. But the difference lies in the doctrines. China's centralized system may allow for faster integration of AI into military planning, whereas democratic nations face ethical, political, and bureaucratic hurdles. This silent race to weaponize AI is perhaps even more dangerous than the arms race of the Cold War. At least then, nuclear deterrence created a fragile stability. With AI, the risks of miscalculation, accidental escalation, or systems running beyond human control loom large. While ships and jets make the headlines, the quieter but equally potent battleground is economic warfare. China understands that open conflict would devastate its economy. Its rise has been built on global trade, investment, and technological exchange. At the same time, Beijing knows that economic leverage is one of its strongest tools. Take rare earth metals, for example. China controls the majority of global production of these critical minerals, which are essential for everything from smartphones to advanced weapon systems. In times of tension, Beijing has hinted at cutting off supply as a weapon. On the flip side, the West has increasingly turned to economic sanctions as a weapon of choice. Sanctions against Russia after its invasion of Ukraine provide a template. Cut off financial systems, restrict technology exports, freeze assets, and isolate the aggressor. The question is, would sanctions work against China? The answer is complicated. China's economy is deeply integrated with the West. Sanctioning China would also hurt the US, Europe, and Asia, perhaps triggering a global recession. Beijing is betting that this mutual dependence will deter the West from using sanctions too aggressively. Yet both sides are preparing. The US is reshoring semiconductor production, building alliances with countries like Japan and South Korea to secure supply chains. China, meanwhile, is accelerating self-reliance campaigns, trying to reduce dependence on Western technologies. All of this, the drills, the AI experiments, the economic maneuvers, amounts to a form of silent pressure. It is war by other means conducted without the open exchange of fire. China's strategy is often described as salami slicing, small, incremental moves that, taken individually, may not justify a Western military response, but collectively shift the balance of power. Over time, China hopes to normalize its dominance around Taiwan and in the Pacific. The West, meanwhile, struggles with unity. Some allies want to take a hard line against Beijing. Others, reliant on Chinese trade, urge caution. This division is precisely what China counts on. In the 21st century, war has shifted from trenches and tanks to algorithms and data streams. China understands this better than most. While naval drills and fighter jets dominate the news, a quieter, less visible battlefield has already been opened, the battlefield of artificial intelligence. China has poured billions into AI development, seeing it as a game changer in both civilian and military domains. In warfare, AI offers three main advantages: speed, precision, and adaptability. Speed. Decisions that once took commanders hours or days can now be made in seconds by AI-driven systems. For example, an AI radar system can detect incoming missiles, calculate their trajectory, and assign countermeasures almost instantly. Precision. AI drones and unmanned vehicles can strike with exact accuracy, reducing the need for large troop movements. Adaptability. AI systems can learn and adjust in real time, making them formidable against conventional strategies. The PLA, People's Liberation Army, has experimented with swarms of AI-powered drones, which can overwhelm traditional air defenses. In 2020, leaked footage showed China testing coordinated drone swarms, each communicating through AI networks, moving like a single organism. Such swarms could be used in Taiwan's coastal areas, crippling radar, communication, and supply lines before a conventional strike even begins. Meanwhile, AI also extends into cyber warfare. Algorithms designed to infiltrate networks, predict responses, and adapt to countermeasures can launch massive cyber campaigns. Instead of dropping bombs, China could cripple Taiwan's power grid or disrupt the Pacific's communication lines using invisible AI-driven code. For the West, this presents a terrifying challenge. Traditional weapons can be countered with stronger weapons, but how do you counter an evolving algorithm? The US and its allies are racing to match China's AI military projects, but Beijing's centralized control and unrestricted AI experimentation give it an edge. AI in this context isn't just a weapon, it's the front line. And in many ways, the war for Taiwan may be decided in server rooms long before any missile is fired. The Pacific standoff is not only about military maneuvers, it's also a war of economies. China is the world's second-largest economy and the factory floor of the planet. Taiwan, meanwhile, is the global leader in semiconductors, producing chips that power everything from smartphones to fighter jets. The West has long used economic sanctions as a tool to punish aggressive states. But China is no ordinary adversary. Its economy is deeply intertwined with the global system. Sanctioning China would not just hurt Beijing, it would send shockwaves through supply chains worldwide. Let's break this down. If China invades Taiwan, the US and its allies will likely respond with severe sanctions, cutting off trade, freezing Chinese assets, and restricting technology transfers. China's counter. Beijing could retaliate by restricting rare earth exports, halting key manufacturing, and leveraging its influence over developing nations. This becomes a game of economic chicken. Who blinks first? For the West, sanctioning China risks crashing their own economies. For China, facing sanctions risks domestic unrest, a nightmare for Beijing's leadership. And then there's Taiwan. The island produces over 60% of the world's semiconductors through companies like TSMC. If war breaks out, these production lines could be disrupted or destroyed, causing a global tech collapse. Imagine a world where phones, computers, and even weapons systems can't be built. That's the scale of the threat. Economic warfare, then, becomes as important as naval warfare. The West may try to deter China by showing it the catastrophic financial costs of an invasion. China, on the other hand, bets that the West is too dependent on its markets to risk a full economic break. It's a high-stakes gamble, and the consequences reach far beyond Asia. The PLA has been undergoing the fastest modernization in history. From new stealth fighters like the J-20 to advanced missile systems like the DF-21D carrier killer, China has transformed from a regional power into a near-peer competitor to the US. Every military drill near Taiwan is not just a show of force, it's a message. China is saying, we are ready, but the West is not idle. The US, Japan, and Australia have all strengthened their military cooperation. NATO, once focused on Europe, has openly discussed the Indo-Pacific. The United States has stationed more forces in Guam, Japan, and the Philippines. Australia is building nuclear submarines through the AUKUS Pact. This is not just preparation, it's deterrence. The West wants to convince China that any invasion of Taiwan would come at an unbearable cost. Still, the danger lies in miscalculation. The Pacific is crowded with warships, planes, and patrols. A single accident, a collision, a misinterpreted radar lock, an overzealous pilot could ignite a conflict that Nuni actually intended to start. Taiwan is not just a pawn in this game. The island has its own formidable defenses. With advanced fighter jets, missile systems, and a highly motivated population, Taiwan has prepared for years for the possibility of invasion. Its strategy is often called the porcupine defense, make the island so costly to attack that even China would hesitate. Taiwan has invested in asymmetrical warfare, small mobile missile launchers, drones, and mines that could stall a much larger invading force. Its geography, mountainous terrain, and dense cities makes it extremely difficult for an invading army to advance. The Taiwanese people themselves have shown resilience and unity, strengthening civil defense and preparing for emergencies. The West, especially the US, has pledged to supply Taiwan with weapons and training. This creates a dangerous equation. The more Taiwan resists, the more China escalates, and the greater the chance of outside powers being dragged into open war. China's silent war games, the naval drills, the AI experiments, the economic leverage, are not random moves. They are signals, rehearsals, and psychological warfare. For Beijing, the goal is not necessarily an immediate invasion, but to pressure Taiwan into submission without firing a shot. For the West, the challenge is to show strength without provoking all-out war. The world now watches a chess match where every move could tip the balance. A naval drill could lead to a blockade. An AI test could spark cyber chaos. A sanction could unravel global trade. The Pacific has become the front line of the 21st century, and Taiwan is at its center. The stakes are nothing less than the future of global order. Will China risk it all to take Taiwan? Will the West sacrifice its economies to defend a democratic island? Will AI and cyber warfare reshape the rules of conflict before the first missile is even launched? These are questions the world cannot yet answer. But one thing is certain, the silent war games are not just drills. They are the opening moves of a confrontation that could define the century. The world holds its breath, waiting to see if the Pacific remains a theater of drills or becomes the battleground of the next great war.